the disturbing news reaches us that not only has been the removal of the teaching of the knowledge of God Almighty from practically every single school system in the world over the last 100 years, 150 years, leading to terrible consequences, but even the residual decency that may last and the residual appearance of propriety in the world is disintegrating. We see that now Sweden has approved the public burning of a Torah scroll, which is one of the great tragedies that is associated with the times that we're in right now, that a Roman official in the times of the Roman conquest of the Holy Land publicly burned a Torah scroll as an act of defiance against God Almighty, but also as an act of war against humanity, because the attack on the Torah, which is already going on, it's the public burning of Torah scroll brings to our attention how degraded the state of affairs is. It says in the Talmud in Masechtas Chulin, Tractate Chulin, on the 92nd page on the first side, it says that there's not only 7 commandments that apply to all human beings, but there's 30 commandments. And we've learned the Ramah Mefano describing what those 30 commandments are. And the Gemara goes on to say that the non-Jews are not fulfilling their end of the bargain and keeping these 30 commandments, but at least there's 3 things that they do not do as an indication of their, and in spite of the fact that they've lost sight of the message of the Torah, but there's at least 3 things that they don't do. And those 3 things are that they do not write marriage contracts between 2 men. They do not sell human meat in the marketplace. And the third is that they respect the Torah. And we see that we've come to a situation in our own generation where these 3 things are already disappearing quickly from the world. We see that the acts of writing marriage contracts between men is already being pushed and accepted in many countries in the world and considered to be something that's acceptable. And then they're talking about culturing human meat, selling it and making it into they write these articles, these are trial balloons to condition our minds into accepting this as normal and acceptable. And the third is the respect for the Torah, where now there is open war against the Torah, and to the extent of considering it acceptable to burn it. And if you look at the comments that people make in support of this burning, like somehow it's just acceptable. The fact that a book is holy to you doesn't mean that it can't be burnt. In fact, it's the right of every human being to burn whatever they want. So that's what they write. So the point is, we have to realize over here the urgency of the hour. If people have come to the place of such a low level that they are willing to publicly burn a Torah scroll, and that's considered acceptable and ratified by a government, it's fulfilling the prophecy that it says that the one of the signs of the coming of the messianic redemption is that the governments of the world will turn over lahafach leminus. They will turn over to the denial of God Almighty. And the question is, why is that connected to the coming of Mashiach? It seems to be the opposite of the redemption. The redemption is that every human being is going to realize they're created in God Almighty's divine image. Every human being is going to recognize that there's nothing besides God Almighty. And so how is the government denying that there's God going to have any connection with the positive outcome that we are anticipating? So Rabbi Steif answers at the beginning of this holy book that we're learning that the answer is that when the governments will become militant atheists, Marxists, so that's the militant branch of atheism, when they become militant atheists, they will be bringing about the dismantling of civilization. And there will, as a result, be rampant violence, riots in the streets, inflation, everything that we have seen play out over the last 150 years in the Marxists' march towards world revolution. And because once people are untethered from their understanding and knowledge of God Almighty, then really, like they say, all chaos breaks loose. There's just chaos, and the chaos is not merely that the Marxists are organizing and prompting it, but they're actually, people are so untethered that they'll join in the bandwagon, as we see in the United States, that people will use an excuse to just go and loot stores, just steal things with no connection whatsoever to whatever the official excuse for the protest is. So this shows us that lurking in the right on the cusp of public expression is this chaos, is this wild activities of people just to get whatever they want, to get whatever they can right now. And that's what the goal of the taking God out of the system is, that people will then act that way, which brings a destabilization of the system, which brings a collapse of the system, with the system being the civilization, that there's economic respect, business, which is people are selling their goods and services, which is a reflection of people's private property, and each person bringing his unique divine gift to the world. The whole concept of having your own private property is that you are able to be a shepherd, to take dominion over the resources that God Almighty has blessed you with, and then to use that as benefit or for benefit of other people. And then there's a mutual exchange of benefit. So all that becomes disrupted. In fact, Marxism, if you read Marx's works, he talks about that everyone should be able to do the same job, and that there should be no individualization in craftsmanships and workmanship and so forth. Everyone should be interchangeable, because they want to eliminate the concept of they want to eliminate the expression of the divinity in each person, that each one has a separate skill, and that skill is expressed by what draws them, what inspires them, what the circumstances of their upbringing are, that they're exposed to different possibilities and different trades and so forth, and then they are drawn to that, and they're able to continue that service to mankind. So if they grew up in a family that does a certain trade, or in a community that has a certain industry, they'll be able to contribute that to humanity. So all that is the attempt is to destroy that expression and to create this. It's not about creating a better result. It's about destroying and denying the divine. So this is, God forbid. So this is brought to the forefront by this shocking attempt to burn in the public square a Sefer Torah, when the Torah, both the oral Torah and the written Torah, is the foundation of civilization. Meaning to say, surreptitiously, to take God out of the school system and to say, they're not going to talk about God because maybe some atheist is going to be offended, is open warfare on God and open warfare on the people who are being denied the opportunity to learn about God Almighty. But they're claiming, when they say that it's still permissible for each person to believe what they want, and they claim that they respect the individual beliefs of each person, just they won't be doing it in a group setting where one person might be expressing belief in God and another person doesn't believe in God, and the claim is that's going to cause some sort of trauma to the person who doesn't believe in God. So, but they claim that the person who believes in God, he's still respected and he's allowed to do what he wants to do. But we see that comes to the next level, because the next level is really revealing what's the intention in the plan to make war against God Almighty and make war against humanity. And that is to take the very transmission of God Almighty's divine guidance for every human being, to uplift every human being, and to publicly destroy it as an indication that this is the revolution intends to remove this from the world. Now, the first thing we have to understand is that the excuse used for this act is actually just a deception, because whoever the person who's doing this or plans to do this, God forbid, claims to be, and whatever his grievances are and against people, the Jewish people, or what's going on in the Holy Land and so forth, is all an excuse to push the Marxist revolution. Because we know, as we've learned before, that the Marxists, as an expression of a Malik, they disguise themselves by using the language of revolution in different countries and different areas, that it sounds like they're native to that topic or native to that issue or native to that grievance, but really it's just Marxism. A Malik is disguising itself with that language in order to try to confuse us. So it has nothing to do with what the issue that they're claiming, that the reason that justifies their outrage to therefore want to burn the Sefer Torah. It is part of a revolutionary progression of the world, using many different excuses to justify it at the moment in time, what the next level of revolution is. Now, we have to understand that this is a declaration against humanity. People are calling out that this is anti-Semitism. Well, this is not about anti-Semitism. This is about a war against God Almighty. We have to be very clear, because the response to say it's anti-Semitism is just part of the phony dialectic, that this somehow has to do with hatred of the Jews. It has nothing to do with hatred of the Jews, other than that the Jews are the ones bringing and carrying forth from generation to generation, without any modification, without any adulteration, without any watering down, carrying forward God Almighty's divine message to every single human being. So it's not really, what's the antagonism here is antagonism against the source of the divine wisdom, and an antagonism against the representatives of the divine wisdom, which includes not only the Jewish people who are carrying God Almighty's divine wisdom in the world and on behalf of every human being, but a war against every human being, because every human being is created in God Almighty's divine image. So burning the Sefer Torah represents the opposite of what we're accomplishing over here. What we're accomplishing by learning Torah over here together is to say and to remind each one of us and to teach the loving teachings of the Torah that are brought down from generation to generation by the Torah sages, to remind every human being who they are. To burn the Sefer Torah, to burn the Torah scroll, is to work to cause every human being to forget that they are created in God Almighty's divine image. So Rabbi Steif says that in this chaos, this developing chaos, and the open, as the warfare against humanity becomes more and more open, what's actually going to happen is that human beings will recognize that everything that they've been taught in the Enlightenment system and the Marxist system has brought about destruction and chaos. And they will say, who has the answers? And they're going to turn to the Jew, who until now they've just been ignoring, and say, these people have been carrying the Torah for thousands and thousands of years. The Torah, giving of the Torah was over 3,333 years ago. And that's the written Torah. And we're continuing the carrying of the Torah that was given earlier to Adam and so forth, orally. So for 5,783 years, they're going to say, the Jewish people are carrying the answer. And they'll go to the Jewish people and say, teach us the answer. That's what Rabbi Steif says is what the connection is between the nations, the governments turning over to becoming militant atheists, militant warriors against God, is because why does how's that connection to the redemption? Because the more bold and the more grotesque their militant atheism and war against God and against humanity becomes, the more it will shake people up to realize that they've been lied to all this time, and all these concepts that they've been taught about, these Enlightenment terms that resonate with the human ear, because they are co-opting true concepts of liberty and divinity and turning them into man-made terms of the Enlightenment, which then leads to the dark Enlightenment as the darkening of humanity. darkening of the intellect of humanity by cutting off the connection to the real source of light, the real source of insight, which is the divine wisdom. By cutting that off, then that's how they accomplish this destruction of the individual human being and the destruction of civilization. So our job is, God forbid, so our job is, we cannot say, oh, well, that's what they're doing, and it doesn't really affect me because I got things figured out. I'm on the right path. The fact of the matter is, first of all, the burning of a Torah scroll is just a tragedy that requires mourning for all humanity to mourn such a tragedy, because it's a war against God and it's a war against all humanity. Number two is, what's the proper response? The proper response is to learn more Torah. It's to bring more Torah into the world. For every Torah scroll that's destroyed, God forbid, there should be 1,000 new Torah scrolls written. We should start a campaign to write 1,000 new Torah scrolls and bring them to every corner of the world. And we should be calling on every human being to look inside what the Torah has to say, because if someone's, the more outrageous they become, it's an opportunity for people to realize what's being robbed from them. It's an act of robbery from humanity to do such a thing. And also, if we go back to the commandments that the Ramah Mefana, we said there were 30 commandments. So they include not only we know that the first one is idolatry, as it's listed, he listed over here, but it says over here that one of the commandments that applies in the not to blaspheme God is the obligation, a positive commandment, to honor the Torah and to labor, to work and learn the Torah that applies to the children of Noah, the non-Jewish people. And because a person who learns Torah is like the high priest in the holy temple. So an incredible thing over here. You have a gift. Every human being has a gift. That when you learn Torah, the Torah that applies to every human being, you're like the high priest in the holy temple. So someone's coming along and they want to burn that so you can't learn it, to publicly attack that. Who are they attacking? They're attacking your ability to reach this incredible level of being like the high priest in the holy temple. So that's what we have to understand, is that there's a positive commandment to learn Torah and a positive commandment to respect the Torah, and obviously doing anything against that is a negative commandment, is a violation of God Almighty's divine wisdom, because who's really interested in the well-being of humanity would attack or destroy something we're coming to uplift humanity. Only a person that is caught in the tentacles of Amalek and Amalek's revolution and war against God Almighty would possibly advance such a thing. So we have to recognize this. We have to now increase in our Torah learning and realize that the problem in the world is not even really this Marxist. It's the real problem is that people are not aware of God Almighty. They're not learning enough Torah, and therefore our job is to bring this to the next level. And so I want to encourage everyone to take this to heart, and when you see these distressing things, to realize that it's an opportunity for you individually to increase in Torah learning, for me also, and also increase in bringing the knowledge of God Almighty to every single human being, because that is the real underlying problem, and that's the only solution.